Today's recipe calls for garlic oil. Gonna show you how to make oven roasted potatoes. They're really simple and they come out super delicious. They make the best side dish. So with that said, let's get started.
The first thing we're going to do is preheat our oven to 375 while we get our potatoes ready. Little pro tip for you is to throw an empty half sheet tray into your oven while it's preheating. This will help us later on when we go to roast our potatoes. Now that we have our oven preheating, we're going to grab 3 pounds of russet potatoes. You can use any type of potato of your choice. I like russet potatoes because they're readily available and they're pretty cheap. After you've gotten them cleaned up, depending on how big they are, you're going to cut them in half or cut them into 3 sections. All my potatoes were about medium to large size, so I cut most of them into 3, but use your best judgment with your potatoes. Now that you have all of your potatoes cleaned up, you're going to grab your sections and you're going to cut them into 3 more sections going widthwise, so you end up with large potato sticks. I cut mine about a ½ inch widthwise. Now that you have everything cut into large sticks, you're going to start to cube up your potatoes. You want about a ½ inch to ½ inch cubes. You don't want to go too big and you don't want to go too small. We know that potatoes hold a ton of starch, which actually is a good thing when we're cubing them up. The cubed potatoes are going to stick to the blade of your knife and you want to leave those on there. This way you can use the previous cut to measure out and gauge the next cut you're going to make with your potatoes, which is super helpful to ensure that we get the same even size pieces throughout. Once you have all of your potatoes cubed up, you're going to throw them in a large holding container. Now that we have all of our potatoes cut and in our bowl, we're going to start to season them. We're going to first toss them in 3 tablespoons of garlic infused oil. This is the same garlic oil that we got when we made our Confit garlic. If you haven't seen that video, you should definitely go check it out. It's really easy and you get 2 delicious products in the end. If you don't want to go through the hassle of making the garlic infused oil, you can use any neutral tasting oil that has a high smoke point. It'll work just the same. Now that everything is tossed and coated with oil, you're going to start to season them with a decent amount of kosher salt. Don't be too afraid of using too much salt. Salt and potatoes go really well together. The next thing we're going to add to our bowl is 1 tablespoon of granulated onion powder. The last and final thing we're going to add to our bowl is a few twisties of fresh cracked black pepper. Pepper and potatoes also go really well together. Once you have your pepper in your bowl, you're going to give everything a quick toss to ensure everything is coated in our seasoning and in our garlic oil. And it sounds gross, but you can eat raw potatoes right out of the bowl like this. It's not that bad. You can taste them to test to see if they need more seasoning. Now that your potatoes are seasoned to your liking, you're going to grab your hot half sheet tray out of the oven and you're going to throw your potatoes right onto the hot pan. You're going to smooth them out so that you get a nice even layer. This way they'll cook evenly, and using the hot half sheet tray like this will sear our potatoes, giving us that nice golden brown crust that we're looking for, and it'll help speed up the cooking process and ensure that everything gets a nice even roast. Once you have a nice even layer, you're going to grab your half sheet tray and throw it right back into your oven. You're going to throw your potatoes on the middle rack. Now that our spuds are in the oven, we're going to set our first timer for 15 minutes. Now that your timer has gone off, you're going to pull your potatoes out of the oven and grab a spoon or a spatula and give your potatoes a quick flippy floppy so that we get that nice even golden brown color on multiple sides of our cubed potatoes. Once you have everything flipped over like we did in the beginning, you want to create a nice even layer, and once you have everything evened out and flipped over, we're going to throw it back into our oven. Now that our starchy cubes are back in the oven, we're going to set another timer for an additional 15 minutes. So altogether, our potatoes are going to roast for 30 minutes. You may need to go more or less time depending on how hot your oven runs and how crispy and golden brown you want your potatoes to be. I went 30 minutes because it made the perfect potato where the outside is nice and crunchy but the center is still nice and soft, and we got a nice golden brown color on all of our potatoes. Now that our timer has gone off, we're going to pull our potatoes out of the oven. So hot and steamy. Meow. Now that our potatoes are out of the oven, you can grab a fork to see if they're done and pierce them, and if the fork goes through really easily, then you know they're done, or you can grab them and pinch them to see if the center is nice and soft. If they're done, we're going to let them hang out for 2 to 3 minutes to slightly cool down before we finish them up. Now that they're slightly cool, you're going to grab a small bowl and you're going to throw in as many potatoes as you wish. I went with about a cup or so, and we're going to drizzle it with some more of our garlic infused oil. Use as much as you wish. I went with about a teaspoon tablespoon or 2 of our garlic oil. Then I finished up with a little bit more salt, some fresh cracked black pepper, and a few red pepper flakes. Then we're going to give everything a quick toss together. You're going to season this to your liking, so use as much as you wish on all of these seasonings. Give it the old taste test to see if you need to adjust the seasoning. Then grab your favorite plate and start to plate up your potatoes. You want to stack them on top of each other so we get that nice height, which will give us that good aesthetic look. Then we'll make it rain some dried parsley. You can also use chive or some rosemary and thyme or a combination of all of them. Whatever you decide to do, just enjoy.
Alright, now that our potatoes are done, let's give them the old taste-a-roo. So by just looking at them, they got that nice golden brown color on the outside. They got a ton of seasoning on them to make them look even more delicious. So yeah, let's give them a shot. These things came out super delicious. They pack a ton of flavor to them. That's the cool thing about potatoes is whatever you throw at them, it really takes on that flavor really well. So we get a bit of saltiness, and then we get that onion flavor from our onion powder. Then we get a bit of spiciness from our red pepper flakes. Then that roasted garlic oil adds a ton of flavor to it. And potatoes and garlic go really well together if you ask me. And then the caramelization that we got on some of our potatoes adds another little flavor profile to it as well. Then the texture on them came out nice and soft in the center, but crunchy on the outside. Overall, these things came out super good. Alright, that's it for today's video. This recipe is really easy. There's not a whole lot to it. These potatoes would make the perfect side dish to some salmon or chicken or even beef. Or you can use them in a burrito, like a breakfast burrito, which sounds really tasty right now. Or you can make some homemade ketchup and some homemade mayo and just dip them in those and eat it like that, which also sounds really good. There's endless opportunities with these potatoes. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna go buy some eggs so I can add a fried egg on top, because that also sounds good and a lot less work than making a burrito. We'll see you on the next one. Get that onion powder flavor, onion flavor from our powder. This is the perfect side dish to any main course, like some roasted salmon, not roasted salmon, baked salmon or grilled salmon or any kind of salmon. That's the cool thing about today's. And the texture on them came out super delicious as well. It's not a thing. Or chicken or even beef, or you can throw them in a potato. Well, they are potatoes.